Hello everyone, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. So I've been I haven't quilt I haven't quilted very much this past week. I haven't sewn very much this past week. And it's because earlier in the week I had a top that was already done and I had it basted and it needed to be quilted. And I was waiting to get my normal machine back. So I bought this. I sew primarily on a Janome Horizon 8200 QCP. Okay. Big name. It's a big, heavy machine. Not top of the line, but not, the bottom either. This is not probably, this is the third sewing machine that I've owned. My first sewing machine was a little brother. 6000 SI. I love that little machine. I actually wish I had kept it. But when I upgraded to a Singer, I sold that machine and it's one of my biggest sewing regrets that I got rid of that machine. Primarily because I spent this money and upgraded to a Singer that was about $600. So that brother was like 150 and the Singer was like 600, maybe 800. I think it was a Singer Confidence 9450 or 9460, something like that. I hated that machine. Like, it was such a chore to sew on. It, like, every time I was using it, there was some kind of issue, problem. I had to stop, fix, adjust. It just was not pleasant to sew on. So, I really didn't intend to buy a new machine. I mean, I bought the machine, but then I didn't sew on it for like 3 years. So then when I finally started sewing on it, I was like, well, this is crap. And I just wasn't enjoying sewing. I still sewed. I did, but I was like, this is not going to work for me. So I dealt with it for like a year. And then 2 years ago, I got this Janome. Well, about 6 months ago, it started giving me problems. I was having an issue. I didn't know what it was, and it needed a service anyway. So, um, I wanted to go ahead and service the machine. But, COVID and all of that. So I waited, and instead, because I still needed to sew on something, and I didn't want to. I have a little Bernina Artista 180, but it's such a small machine, and I'm used to this huge Janome, and I didn't want that to be my everyday machine. I use that for like classes. I take the Bernina for classes because it's got a great little stitch. It's a heavy, heavy machine. It's not lightweight at all, which is why I kind of missed that brother because it would have been perfect to take to classes. But anyway, I travel with the little Bernina. Um, so I needed a backup machine that I would be able to like really sew on every day if I had to, if my main machine was out of commission. So I got a Juki 2000 QI. I didn't get the 2010 with the speed control because I didn't want to pay an extra $400 or $500 plus tax just for speed control. So I got the 2000, and I sewed on that. But the first time I went to free motion quilt on it, I didn't like it. I did not enjoy free motion quilting using the Juki. And I don't, maybe it was the speed control, maybe that would have made it better. I don't know, but I just didn't enjoy it. So I had to use my walking foot and I did free motion, well, not free motion, walking foot quilting, and I just did straight line quilting on everything I did, which is fine. But my Janome was the first machine that I ever used that I actually enjoyed free motion quilting, and I actually felt like I could do this. Between the Janome and the Craftsy class I took by Krista Watson, it was something about her delivery in that class that made me unafraid to free motion quilt. So I highly recommend that class. They say that everybody's brain is different. The way you receive information is different. The way that you learn is different from the next person. And I had watched many, many, many classes, but it just never quite clicked. And with her, it just did. And I put my first, test swatch under there, and I just did what she said, and it was like, okay, yeah, this is actually something I can do. So I've got my Janome back. Long story short, right? I'm like rambling now, right? So I've got my Janome back, and I've started quilting it. Not free motion. I'm using my walking foot, but the 8200 has an integrated walking foot, which is great because you don't actually have to walk. The worst thing about a walking foot is that you have to actually walk when you sew. You have to sew slowly. But with the Janome integrated feed, you do not have to do that. Like you can like plow on, which is great, right? Because you can get it done faster. So sometimes I free motion, and I've been dabbling in it, but a lot of times I still use my integrated walking foot, and I'll use like a serpentine stitch, and I'll use that all over my quilt because it kind of gives me some wavy lines. It looks like I did something, but really I just pedal to the metal straight line, and the machine did the serpentine for me. So that's what I've been doing. So this quilt that I brought out, I started doing that, right? And it's got blocks, and then it has some sashing. So in the sashing and around the edges and the outer portions of it, I've done this serpentine stitch. And now I have to decide if I want to do the serpentine stitch over the entire quilt, or if I'm only going to do the serpentine stitch in the sashing portions in the outside, and then I'm going to do some free motion quilting in the blocks. And I know that if I decide to do the serpentine all over, I can have this sucker done like today. Maybe tomorrow. No, probably not tomorrow. I got a lot to do tomorrow. I probably won't get to sew it all, but I could theoretically get all my quilting done today. If not today, then by Sunday, and I can have it bound and be done with it. But I really kind of want to free motion quilt these blocks, but I don't know if I want to invest the time or not. So let's see if I can show some of this quilt here. So this is the quilt. We'll back a little bit. This is the block. So the name of the pattern is Wanda. It's by Gudrun Erla with GE Quilt Designs. She does twice. She streams twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays. I think Tuesdays at I think it's 8 o'clock Eastern time, 7 Central, and then on Fridays I think it's 3 o'clock Eastern. And she periodically does sew-alongs. And so she did a sew-along for one of her patterns in her newest book, Stripology Mixology 2. It's a great book. It has some great patterns in it. This pattern, however, is not one that I would have chosen. So I bought the book, and I looked at all the patterns, and this is probably, not one of the ones that I would have made. But it went together so beautifully, so easily. I'm glad I did it, because I ended up doing it because she did sew-along with it. And that was since she was doing the sew along and I watch her streams, I was like, hey, I'll make the quilt. And I had like the perfect fabric that I wanted to use. I had got this fabric from, I think it's from boutiques.com. Of course, they sell more than just boutiques at boutiques.com. And I think I ordered a bunch of half yards. I think I had 15 half yards. And I put this quilt together. And it went together so great. It's a no waste wonky 9 patch. Normally when you do a 9 patch, you've got to like sew the 9 squares together and then cut it wonky, and then you have a lot of waste. Well, this is no waste. So great. So anyway, I digress again. So I'm trying to figure out how or if I want to finish quilting this. Do I want to do the serpentine, which is what I've started here, around the edges, or do I want to do some free motion quilting in these blocks? And I've just been hemming and hawing and not knowing what I want to do. So I think yesterday I didn't sew at all. The day before, I think I might have done a few of these zigzag lines or maybe nothing. I like literally this quilt has been sitting under my machine, under my needle all week. Like all week while I like pitch back and forth on what I want to do. So I got to decide today. I've got to start working an hour. I took half a day today. So not for any particular reason, just because I had some PTO that I rolled over from last year that I needed to use by the 15th. So I and I think what it is I have so many other quilts that need to be quilted. Um, I have one quilt that's quilted and just needs to be bound. I have like 3 quilts that are pieced that need to be basted and quilted and bound. So part of me just wants to get it over with and just plow through with the straight line quilting. Um, well, not straight line technically. I'm moving the quilt straight in a straight line, but the machine will do the serpentine stitch. Or if I'm gonna like quilt these blocks, and I still don't know. I still don't know. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a practice swatch, and I am going to um, do some free motion quilting because I essentially haven't free motion quilted in 6 months since this machine has been down. But I don't know. I have the Hope quilt to be basted, Kawaii to be basted, the Holloway quilt to be basted. Maybe 4. I think I might have 4 quilts that need to be basted. I don't know. And I still have to, you know what? I still have to finish quilting the quilt that I was in the middle of quilting when my machine went down. So I I just think this quilt would look so much better if I just free motion quilted the individual blocks. So I think I'm just going to have to suck it up and do that. Okay, I think I've just made my mind. I've made my decision. I'm going to pop a practice swatch up under here so that I can practice it a little bit since I haven't really done it in a while. And I'm going to free motion quilt these blocks. Hopefully I can get a few blocks done before I have to start work, but we shall see. I'll update you guys. I don't know. Thanks for watching, I guess, if anyone's watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me some suggestions, or somebody tell me something I can do to not keep doing so many projects and not start so many projects. I've got so many works in progress. And that's another thing too. It's not just the quilts that have to be basted and quilted. Like I have various quilts that are in, various stages of piecework. Really too many to even talk about. I'd have to like pull out my binder. It's ridiculous. Anyway, have a great day. Hope you enjoyed.